Beyonce, girl.
Literally rips y'all shit off the internet, like didn't really give y'all no credit.
Nikki, you're trying to erase my contributions to like house music, dance music, electronic music, and all of that.
None of y'all like even took a second to even understand like the African proverbs that were like littered all over.
Welcome back to StarHush, where nothing stays hidden for long and the truth always finds the light. Azealia Banks is back at it, shaking tables and calling names. This time, she's coming for none other than Beyonce. And she's not holding back. In a string of bold claims, Azealia says Beyonce's past isn't as clean as the world thinks. According to her, before Jay-Z ever entered the picture, Beyonce was allegedly tied into the same questionable circle that's now surrounding Diddy. Yeah, you heard that right.
It sounds like to me is that the government found a very, very, very successful way to control and manipulate hip-hop by allowing their top agents to run everything.
Banks is saying Beyonce's rise to the top wasn't just about vocals and dance moves. It was about playing the game. She's painting a picture of someone who moved through the industry not just with talent, but with silence, power plays, and behind-the-scenes connections that made her untouchable.
Beyonce, girl. Can I do a brown skin girl remix without you ripping it down off the internet?
So what exactly does Azealia know? And could she really be the one to shake Beyonce's image to the core? Let's break it down. Azealia Banks is known for being unpredictable, but even her biggest critics admit when she talks, people listen. And this time, she's going straight for one of the biggest icons in pop culture history. According to her, the polished, flawless Beyonce we all see is a product of carefully managed storytelling, protected by industry powerhouses wrapped in secrecy and built on decisions that go way beyond music. In Azalea's eyes, Beyonce isn't just a performer, she's a figure shaped by ambition, locked-in alliances, and years of strategic moves. And the story? It's way darker than the world's been told.
But it's like, Beyonce literally rips y'all shit off the internet, like didn't really give y'all no credit. And y'all are just be on here all day, like,
The whisper's been circling for years. Did Beyonce really climb to the top off pure talent, or was she quietly backed and guided by some of the same powerful men now being exposed for shady moves behind the scenes? Before the awards, world tours, and billion-dollar brand, there were already rumors. Stories about Beyonce being tied in with big-name industry giants like Diddy long before the spotlight made her untouchable. People questioned whether her early rise came through regular artist grind, or whether she got brought into certain rooms most folks never even hear about. And now, Azealia Banks is putting a name to it all. Known for speaking loud when others stay quiet, Azealia is pushing the idea that Beyonce didn't just grind her way up, she made major sacrifices behind the scenes. According to her, Beyonce played the long game to gain favor with powerful insiders who run the industry like a secret club. Azealia points to high-profile, invitation-only events, private parties hosted by major players like Diddy. She says these weren't just red carpet moments or harmless hangouts. According to her, these were places where real business got handled away from cameras. Deals were made, alliances were built, and if you were in the room, you weren't just a guest, you were expected to understand the game. Azealia claims Beyonce wasn't just a newcomer soaking up the scene. She was supposedly involved in the back-end mechanics of that world, moving smart, building protection, and putting herself in position to win big. Some people believe her presence at those events was strategic, not just social, but tactical. A way to earn trust, gain leverage, and fast-track her place at the top.
Just encapsulate in time. Like, you're a creep. You're a creep, Beyonce.
But Azealia says it didn't stop at just showing up to Diddy's parties. She's taking it a step further. According to her, Beyonce wasn't just attending elite industry events. She was being positioned as a gatekeeper, a power player, not just meant to succeed, but to help control who else could get in the room. Azalea's claim is that Beyonce wasn't raised to disrupt the system. She was groomed to protect it. In her words, Beyonce became part of the inner circle that decided who rose and who stayed in the shadows. And if an artist didn't play by those unwritten rules, didn't toe the line, or refused to fit into the blueprint, they got sidelined, while Beyonce kept rising. For years, Azealia has been loud about what she sees as manipulation behind the singer's public image. She says the whole empowered icon vibe is a perfectly polished illusion. built by powerful handlers and backed by a media machine that keeps anything messy under wraps. According to Banks, Beyoncé's brand isn't just about style and grace, it's about control. She claims the singer has relied on dark PR to clean up scandals, erase past missteps, and flip any negative buzz into praise. Everything, from the early Dangerously in Love days to the acclaimed Lemonade era, is part of a long game, planned, edited, and protected. Azealia says it's all strategy. Every move Beyoncé makes, every outfit, every performance, every carefully worded interview, it's all filtered through the lens of legacy building, not raw authenticity, but power, image management, and long-term protection of the throne.
We gave you your props for Black is King because, okay, whatever, she's doing her, Oshun cosplay.
What's raising even more eyebrows now are the unconfirmed but consistent whispers about things much deeper than music, fame, or even public image. We're talking about rumors involving controlled environments, secret recordings, and behind-the-scenes leverage used to maintain power. For years, there have been quiet talks that Beyoncé may have been exposed to a different side of the industry early in her career, one filled with influence, pressure, and some questionable social circles. Whispers suggest that this world involved more than just talent deals. It included connections to certain powerful gatherings where some say people were carefully watched, influenced, or even recorded. The conversation exploded again after news broke about law enforcement retrieving evidence during a recent raid at Diddy's home. Reports say that 3 private recordings were found, and they allegedly feature high-profile figures during private events. These tapes, according to some legal reps and insiders, could contain footage that links some of the biggest names in entertainment to moments they probably never expected to surface. One attorney representing someone tied to this case confirmed that the footage includes 3 major celebrities seen engaging in activities during exclusive parties. While no names have been confirmed publicly, it's been said that one of those individuals is feeling the pressure hard. A source close to the situation said the celebrity feels violated and betrayed, especially since this footage was never supposed to see the light of day. If it gets out, it's going to follow him forever, the insider explained. This isn't something that can just disappear, it's a real burden. At a recent press event, attorney Tony Busby added fuel to the fire by saying, "The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and it's a long list." He made it clear they're not rushing, but once everything's locked in, those names will shake the industry. Now here's where it circles back to Beyoncé. Azealia Banks has hinted that some of these mysterious recordings may connect back to names people would never expect, and she's made it clear she believes Beyoncé was closer to that world than most fans would ever want to admit. According to Banks, Beyoncé's longtime ties to Diddy's elite circle aren't just social connections. She believes those relationships positioned her to benefit from a system designed to protect its own, even if it meant turning a blind eye to the cost. While nothing has been proven, insiders say Beyoncé wasn't just an observer in that space. Some suggest she might have been involved, or at the very least shielded, by the same people now under investigation. And that's where Azealia Banks draws the line. She's not just calling out celebrities for surface-level drama. She's questioning the very foundation of how power is built and protected in the industry.
You're still a Black person. At the end of the day, you need to know your history. You need to know something other than cunt.
The tension between Azealia Banks and Beyoncé isn't new. It's been simmering beneath the surface for years. But recently, it's turned even more intense and a whole lot more personal. Banks has moved beyond casual jabs and is now directly accusing Beyoncé of cultural poaching. She says Beyoncé has built her image and sound by borrowing, without credit, from underground Black artists who paved the way but get none of the spotlight. In Azalea's words, Beyoncé isn't innovating, she's repackaging. She claims Queen Bey takes raw, original work from lesser-known creatives and flips it for mass appeal, all while presenting it like it's her own invention. Banks has made it clear. She believes Beyoncé doesn't uplift the culture. She feeds off it. One of the biggest sparks between them came from Beyoncé's Lemonade album. At first, Banks praised it, but that didn't last. Later, she blasted it as a feminist scam, calling the project shallow beneath its powerful visuals. According to her, the album was built around pain, betrayal, and heartbreak. But instead of empowering, she says it sent the wrong message. Banks argued that the entire message revolved around clinging to a cheating partner, dressing it up in metaphors, and selling it as strength when, in her eyes, it wasn't. Azealia took it even further, saying, Beyonce profits off the struggles of black women by turning real pain into performance. She claimed the album was more about selling emotion than actually standing for something, and that it helped Beyonce's brand more than it helped the people it was supposedly honoring. And now with Beyonce stepping into country music, Banks is once again calling her out. When Beyonce revealed Renaissance Act 2 during a Verizon commercial at the Super Bowl, it came with 2 new singles, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. The country-style sound, complete with banjo elements and slower tempos, confirmed fan rumors that she was gearing up for a full, country-inspired project. But Azealia wasn't impressed. She jumped on Instagram stories with a warning, saying Beyonce was setting herself up to get clowned. Her exact words? Nothing country about it. You're setting yourself up to be ridiculed. She didn't stop there. Azealia criticized the styling, the sound, and even the presentation. She said critics weren't going to just accept a blonde wig and industry muscle, and called the whole rollout musical grift. Banks made it clear, yes, black women can absolutely create country music, but in her opinion, Beyonce's version wasn't hitting. She said the soul, the grit, and the storytelling weren't there. Things really heated up when rumors started flying that Beyonce might have sampled one of Azalea's older tracks on Renaissance. Banks fired back immediately, this time threatening legal action not just at Beyonce, but at her entire team, her record label, and even her daughter, Blue Ivy. That moment, that was a hard line drawn in the sand. It became clear, Banks doesn't just critique Beyonce's music. She sees her as a dangerous figure in the industry. In Azalea's eyes, Beyonce is powerful, protected, and operating within a system that benefits from keeping certain truths out of the spotlight. And that, according to Banks, is the real problem. Things flared up again when Beyonce dropped Break My Soul, a house-inspired track that quickly gained attention. But Azealia Banks wasn't impressed. Known as one of the early innovators of the genre, Banks didn't hold back. She tore the track apart, calling it bad house music for people who've never heard real house before. According to her, it felt like Beyonce was trend hopping, trying to stay relevant by jumping into sounds she didn't truly understand or respect. But this wasn't the first time Azealia came for Bey's creative choices. Back in 2018, Banks added more heat by claiming Beyonce had a habit of borrowing from talented women without giving them proper credit. She said Bey lacked originality and directly accused her of using choreography lifted from the Count Contessa video, an underground visual piece Banks had put together years earlier. Right after Beyonce and Jay-Z wrapped their On the Run 2 tour, the timing couldn't have made the controversy look any more direct. Banks posted online saying her former dancer Ashanti choreographed for Beyonce and allegedly used the original moves created by artist Jip Jack. Azealia wrote, Beyonce needs to get over herself and just hire me. Banks has stayed consistent with her stance. She believes Beyonce talks empowerment while quietly undercutting the very women she claims to uplift. She says Bey has a pattern of copying the vision of lesser-known artists, polishing it up, and then reintroducing it to the mainstream as if it were her own. To Banks, that's not empowerment. It's domination, disguised as praise. In her words, we don't need any more Beyonce thought moments. She went on to say, I have no clue why she wants to be a regular B. Banks didn't stop there. In 2016, she took it even further by accusing Beyonce of exploiting the creativity of black women, especially those with darker skin tones. She tweeted that Beyonce wasn't an artist, but a poacher, claiming she takes from women doing the real work and pretends to be inspired. Banks said Beyonce should stay in Jay-Z's shadow and stop blocking space for original voices in the game. Fast forward to the release of Cowboy Carter, and Banks once again went in. She accused Beyonce of switching identities whenever it fits her career strategy. Banks called the album's theme white woman cosplay and claimed that Beyonce was using a country aesthetic in a way that felt forced. She posted on Instagram saying the whole thing was just a huge eye roll. In a full-blown rant, Banks turned her focus to Jay-Z, saying he was behind most of Beyonce's creative decisions. According to her, the album rollout didn't even feel like Beyonce's own voice. It felt like a chess move from someone else. Banks wrote, I'm so saddened by Jay-Z and his over-strategizing everything Bey does to the point where it's clearly his influence and not the real Bianca Bardo. She didn't stop there either. Banks added, someone tell Jay-Z his strategies are corny and Beyonce has better ideas. We want to see her outside without him and his pound puppy dreadlocks breathing all over her. And to top it off, Banks posted an image of herself in cowboy gear from an old music video with a one-word caption, the OG. she didn't need to say more. To her, it was another clear sign that Beyonce was watching and copying. But the most brutal claim of all, Banks says Beyonce isn't even steering her own ship. She calls Jay-Z the real puppet master, saying Beyonce has spent her entire career playing roles designed by others, especially him. Banks mocks her for staying quiet when critics speak up, saying her silence isn't grace, it's fear. To Banks, Beyonce hides behind fan loyalty, symbolic lyrics, and carefully crafted visuals because she's not willing to face real confrontation. And that's where Banks draws the line. She's not just throwing shade, she's trying to break what she sees as the illusion behind the empire.
Beyonce, girl, can I do a brown skin girl remix without you ripping it down off the internet?
Now, Azealia Banks is calling it how she sees it. She says Beyonce is creatively tapped out. In her eyes, Bey's no longer making from the heart, just dropping one carefully packaged project after another to keep the brand alive. Banks describes her as a woman with too much money and not enough creative fire left to truly move the culture. Every rollout, every look, every sound, Azealia says, it's all starting to feel like hollow attempts to chase relevance, not lead it. At the center of Banks's criticism is one major claim: Beyonce's rise to the top wasn't just hustle, it was manufactured. Banks says the world didn't just witness an unstoppable talent outshine the rest. Instead, she believes Beyonce was molded, protected, and fast-tracked by a circle of powerful men who helped control the game from the shadows. Names like Diddy come up again and again, figures tied to influence, secrecy, and quiet favors. Now that the walls around that system are starting to crumble, Banks seems more fired up than ever to pull back the curtain. Whether she's revealing actual receipts or just adding her voice to the growing noise, one thing's clear: Azealia Banks is not afraid of Beyonce. She's ready to go head-to-head and tear down whatever illusion she thinks people are still buying into. And she's not the only one who's spoken out. Long before this latest storm, Keyshia Cole also made her stance known. She's never been one to hold her tongue. And it all popped off when she took to Twitter and dropped her thoughts on Beyonce's track Bow Down. That post? It lit the match that sparked even more fires.
Don't forget it, don't forget it. Respect that.
When Beyonce dropped Bow Down, the track hit hard. Some praised it as a bold flex, a powerful statement showing who runs the game, but not everyone saw it that way. One voice who wasn't feeling the message at all, Keyshia Cole, and she wasn't quiet about it. Keyshia jumped on Twitter and made it known she had a problem with the energy Beyonce was giving in that song. In her words, she felt the message was hypocritical. She tweeted, "Can't stand when people act all self-righteous when it's convenient just to make themselves look good, but still talk trash when it suits them." That tweet alone had social media buzzing, but Keyshia didn't stop there. In a now-deleted follow-up, she added more fuel to the fire. She wrote something along the lines of, "First it's all about women sticking together. Now it's bow down, but it's all good. Chicks stay talking slick, but when I speak my mind, it's a problem." She wasn't trying to sugarcoat anything. Keyshia felt the track sent mixed messages, telling women to empower each other one minute and then telling them to kneel the next. It struck her as fake positivity wrapped in ego, and she had no issue calling it out. Her words hit a nerve because she wasn't just taking shots, she was speaking on something bigger. The industry often praises unity, but Keyshia was pointing out how fast that message can get twisted. When Keyshia Cole hit send on those tweets about Bow Down, social media lit up like wildfire. The moment her words started circulating, Beyonce's fan base, the Beehive, came out swinging. What seemed like just another online opinion quickly turned into a digital war zone. The internet wasn't ready for the smoke, but it came fast. Some folks praised Keyshia for saying what others were scared to, calling out mixed messages in the name of real female unity. They respected her for standing 10 toes down and not being afraid to speak on one of the biggest names in the industry, but the Beehive? They weren't letting that slide. They defended Beyonce heavy, calling Keyshia bitter, jealous, and irrelevant. It didn't take long before hashtags started trending, timelines got flooded, and the fan armies from both sides locked horns. What began as a quick tweet turned into an all-out online showdown. People from every corner of the internet jumped in, debating feminism, fake unity, industry power, and the price of honesty. But underneath all the tweets and trending topics was something deeper. Insiders say Keyshia had been uneasy with how the Beyonce brand moves for a long time. She was never one to play industry games or stay quiet to keep doors open, and according to a few whispers in the background, she may have paid for that. Word is speaking out cost her. She didn't hold her tongue, and some believe that came with consequences.
Has taken it so literal that she has completely twisted it, and she's come for Beyonce. I don't like how she tried to come for her. Anybody came for Beyonce. That girl is at the top of her.
It didn't take long after Keisha's tweet for things to shift, and not in her favor. Quietly but noticeably, her label support started fading. Major platforms stopped pushing her music. The features? They slowed down too. And just like that, Keisha Cole, once a chart-topping singer with platinum plaques and her own hit reality show, started to vanish from the mainstream spotlight. Some folks call it the Beyonce effect. Let's keep it real. This isn't a brand new conversation. For years, Beyonce's been viewed as untouchable. The blueprint, fame, power, perfection. On the surface, she's poised, graceful, and always above the drama. But behind that flawless image, there have been quiet murmurs. Rumors about what happens when a woman in the industry dares to speak up, step out of line, or challenge her position at the top.
Yeah, I always knew Beyonce was gonna be Beyonce, though.
Look at Carrie Hilson. She was one of the brightest names rising in the 2000s, talented, stylish, and respected as both a singer and a songwriter. She penned hits for others before stepping into her own lane. But then came the turning point, her track Turning Me On. In the remix, Carrie dropped bars that many believed were aimed at Beyonce. She never said her name directly, but the message was clear. Shots fired at the image of a polished diva built on smoke and mirrors.
I protected him. I protected the girl that wrote it, who went on to become famous. I protected everyone in the story, so I had to eat that. I had to eat that. And I am still eating it to this day.
And right after that, her momentum disappeared, big interviews stopped, projects got delayed, Carrie's name slowly faded from mainstream headlines. Over the years, she's dropped hints about being iced out, left out of industry conversations, and blacklisted by people in power. And fans haven't forgotten. A lot of folks still believe her career took a hit because she spoke a little too boldly and a little too soon. Then there's Tinashe. She burst onto the scene with Two On, and the industry buzz was loud. People thought she was about to be the next big name in R&B pop. But just like Carrie and Keisha, her rise slowed down. She started speaking out, saying she felt boxed in, overlooked, and kept out of key decisions about her own music and image. She didn't name names, but she made it clear she felt like certain lanes were already taken, and she wasn't being allowed to truly take off. And once again, fans started connecting the dots.
With people that I never would have before. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that was how important it was to continue to have a perspective.
Even though Tinashe never said any names, the timing said a lot. Once she started speaking out, talking about being shut out of her own creative process and pushed into boxes she didn't choose, her momentum stalled almost overnight, and the streets started connecting the dots. It was clear something behind the scenes wasn't adding up. And then there's Amerie. She came in hot with one thing, a track that was bold, fresh, and ahead of its time. Back in 2005, that song was everywhere. She had the vocals, the look, the energy. It seemed like she was about to become one of the biggest new stars in the game. But just as fast as she rose, she faded. Her songs stopped getting radio love, and fans noticed. What really got people talking was how another female artist with a very similar vibe suddenly started dominating the spotlight, only with more label support and industry muscle behind her. It didn't take long for fans to start wondering, did Amerie really fall off, or was she replaced? That pattern has shown up more than once. And then there's Lauryn Hill, one of the most powerful voices of her generation. Lauryn wasn't just a singer, she was a force. A lyrical heavyweight, a cultural icon, and a game changer all in one. The miseducation of Lauryn Hill was a masterpiece that broke records and changed the sound of an era. But over time, the industry started labeling her something else. Not brilliant, not groundbreaking, but difficult. The same system that once praised her started pulling back. Sure, she had personal battles, but Lauryn also spoke openly about how the industry works. She called out the fake support, the control, and the pressure to conform. And just like that, the door quietly started to close. Lauryn didn't play by the rules. And instead of being celebrated for her honesty, she became a cautionary tale. From being one of the most respected names in music to nearly vanishing from the spotlight, her story feels far too familiar.
Young people know that it is not a burden to love him and to represent him.
So what do all these women have in common? They were talented, they were fearless, and they all spoke out, about the system, the silence, the pressure, and the control that operates behind the glitz and glamour. And once they open their mouths, it's like the industry quietly hit the switch on them. The spotlight dimmed, the features disappeared, and the support gone. And now, in the fallout from the headlines surrounding Diddy, people are starting to revisit these stories, not as isolated moments, but as part of a pattern. A consistent thread where powerful women, especially black women, are sidelined the moment they step outside the box or speak against the structure. And one name keeps floating through the conversation: Beyonce. Not through loud accusations, but through whispers, through patterns, through quiet questions that keep showing up in comment sections, interviews, and behind closed doors. It's not about whether Beyonce is talented, it's about whether she's also a gatekeeper in an industry that rewards silence and loyalty, and pushes aside anyone who doesn't follow the unspoken rules. That's the part that's got people watching closely. Because what's happening with Diddy right now, it's not just another celebrity headline. This feels different. It feels like the curtain is finally being pulled back on something a lot more twisted, a version of the industry that most fans never get to see. In the past year alone, Diddy has gone from music legend to the center of serious legal heat. There are claims involving manipulation, career sabotage, contracts used to silence people, and stories of insiders being pushed out when they didn't comply. And it's not just about him, it's about the whole power structure that helped him operate unchecked for so long. Because let's be real, Diddy didn't run that system by himself. He was part of a well-connected, tightly protected circle. A network of powerful figures, artists, execs, and insiders who didn't just influence music, they controlled the entire game. They had the power to choose who would rise, who would stall, and who would be locked out completely. And sitting right there within that elite circle, Beyonce, Jay-Z, L.A. Reid, the faces of what many once called the black elite of entertainment. For years, this group was seen as the standard. Grammy winners, billion-dollar brands, and cultural royalty. They were celebrated for defining modern music and setting trends that moved the world. But now, that perfect image is starting to fade. And behind that shine, people are starting to see cracks in the foundation. It's no accident that Beyonce and Jay-Z's empire exploded during the same era Diddy ruled the charts and boardrooms. They were always moving in the same exclusive circles, private brunches, top-tier events, and locked-in industry deals. These weren't just colleagues, they were pieces of the same machine, a machine powered by silence, loyalty, and moves made behind closed doors. As long as you played by the rules, you were good, protected, elevated, but the moment you stepped out of line, you disappeared. Your name stopped being mentioned. The calls stopped coming. And this is where Beyonce's name comes up, not as someone accused of wrongdoing, but as someone who might have benefited from that same structure. To be clear, Beyonce hasn't been named in any legal cases, not yet. But more and more people are starting to ask the same question. Was her rise to the top purely about talent and hard work? Or was it also about being backed by a powerful system that made sure nobody could stand next to her? Because this story isn't just about Diddy, it's about a whole era. A time when the industry wasn't just about music, but about power. And Beyonce was right there, in the rooms, at the table, protected by the same unwritten rules that helped build some of the biggest careers and quietly ended others. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Are we looking at a case of calculated power or just successful people moving smart? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop your thoughts below. We want to hear it all. Until next time, my stars and hushers, stay sharp and stay watching.